Welcome to Maw Maw's Best Cooking and More. Today we're going to make chicken and dumplings the old-fashioned way. Let me wash my hands first. Okay, the first thing we did is I boiled 4 chicken breasts and I let them cool, and then I diced them up. You can see they're in small bite-sized pieces. And we're going to now take 2 32-ounce boxes of chicken broth. Now I don't care what brand you use, it doesn't really matter. Or you can even make your own chicken broth. When we boil the chicken, we had some left over, some broth left over. So you can see right here what I did. I just put it in the refrigerator. So that lets us use that and not waste it. I'm all about not wasting. So, as long as you refrigerate it, you're fine. So we're gonna fill up this large pan because this recipe makes a lot. But my family's good with that. They love this. Now we're going to add 1 can of cream of chicken soup to this broth. Makes it real creamy and adds to the flavor. So you just add that to your broth and we'll stir it as it's getting warm and dissolve. So let's put it over here on our heat and get it going. Turn it on about a little more than medium. And now the next thing we're going to do is make our dumplings. All right, now we're going to make our dumplings. First thing you do is you add 3 cups of plain flour. Now that means not self-rising. Plain means it has no salt and nothing in it to make it rise, because we don't want these dumplings to be thick. We want them to be nice and thin. So 3 cups of plain flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and here I have 3 tablespoons of Crisco. Now I'm going to use this hand blender to just cut that shortening into the flour and the salt. Just want to kind of cut it in. You don't want a lot of shortening in your dumpling dough because it will make it too soft. The shortening is what makes it tender, and we don't want real tender dumplings. We want them to hold together. Okay, so we've got that pretty much cut in. See how it is? It's just you can't see the shortening at all. It's all blended in. So now we're going to add 1 egg. And what the egg does is it makes it a little bit tough. Not bad tough, but you know, holds it together. So we'll stir that in. And now the thing that I do that so many people don't do is I make my dumplings with the chicken broth. I don't make it with milk. I don't make it like biscuits. So let's get some chicken broth. I've got this warm chicken broth. And it's probably going to take, I would think, probably about a cup. We'll see. We're going to add that to our flour. And this is what gives it just the great flavor. If you make it with milk, it's going to taste like biscuits. But you make it with chicken broth, it's going to taste more like chicken. So mix it up well, and it will form a dough. I'll show you here. See how it's forming a dough? You just keep blending it until all the dry flour is incorporated. I have a tip for you. When you're putting your wax paper down, see how it won't stay put? If you take just a little water on your hands and go under your wax paper, just slightly, it will just stick down perfectly. So it won't be sliding all over the place. So this big piece is for when we cut them out and lay them out to dry. This right here is where I'll be rolling them out. So let me get some more flour. We're going to flour our board here, paper. You want to make sure your rolling pin is floured really well. Now you're going to have to work this dough a little bit because it's very soft. So what we want to do is just kind of roll it in the flour and mash it down flat. You just keep doing that. One thing I will tell you, if you want to wear gloves to do this, it's fine. But one thing that I always do is I remove all of my jewelry. I don't wear rings or watches or bracelets. 2 reasons. I don't want to ruin my rings and watches and bracelets. And the other reason is they carry lots of germs. So you've washed your hands well, and you might even want to use a nail brush to keep those nails clean. But don't wear your jewelry. So we just keep working our flour into this. Just keep working it. And you see I'm using a small amount of the dough at first because it's just easier to handle. So now we're going to roll these out. And we want the rolling pin to be covered well. Now we want this to be really dry and not sticky. So you just have to keep turning it over and adding more flour. You can't get too much flour on these. Roll it out really thin. Just probably like a 1/4 or maybe even an 1/8 of an inch thin. So this is how you do it, like that. And now you take a knife, and we like them wide noodles like that. And I'll just break it in half like that and lay them out. And we're going to let them lay out here for a little while so that they kind of dry out, so that they don't stick together. You just keep doing this until we get through all of our dough. This makes a pretty large bunch of dumplings, but my family loves them leftover, and I always make enough so that when they come I can send home some for leftovers for them. So it does make a lot. You can always cut the recipe in half if you'd rather, but I find that usually they get eaten in the next day or so. If not the first day, they will get eaten in the next day or so. And they warm over well. You just need to add a little water to them. And yeah, you can just stick them in the microwave with a little water in the bowl, and they warm up real well. Okay, now we have been heating up our broth, ready to add our dumplings. I'm going to put, this is about 1.5 cups of water in there, simply because I want there to be a lot of liquid, and it's very chickeny, so we don't have to worry about it not being the right consistency. So now we have to wait until this starts to boil, because we don't want to drop our dumplings in without it boiling. It has to be boiling. So it'll be just a minute. All right, our broth is boiling. So now we're going to drop these in one at a time. We just want it to be kind of a slow boil. If it starts to, the boiling starts to slow down, just back off a few seconds till you drop another one in. Okay, all of our dumpling strips are in the broth, and they're slowly simmering. We don't want them to boil real hard, but we want them to cook a little bit. And I don't know, if you turn this down low and let them cook for, I don't know, 15 minutes, something like that, they'll be done. And we're gonna add our chicken to this. We've got 3 cups of chicken that we cooked earlier, and we chopped up and heated it up. So we're gonna add that to our dumplings. We're gonna add the chicken to our dumplings and just kind of give it a stir. And we're gonna let it simmer a little while. The chicken's done, but we want it to get nice and hot, and it'll kind of thicken up this broth a little bit. And it's okay to kind of punch them down. Don't do a lot of stirring, but kind of punch them down a little bit to keep them in the broth. And pretty much, that's it. You've got chicken and dumplings that'll taste delicious. Our chicken and dumplings are all finished. And this is just about half of what it makes. So you know that it makes a big serving amount. If you want to cut that recipe in half, it'll work just as fine. But our family loves this, one of the favorites, especially around the holidays. I hope you'll try it. If you have any questions, just put the questions on Facebook. I'll try to answer every one of the responses. And just let me know how it works out. Let's talk about our new Bible verse for November. Do everything in love. 1 Corinthians 16:14. Try to remember that. As I've gotten older, I've had a hard time remembering Bible verses, but I tell myself I'm going to start learning the short ones first, and you can probably do the same. So watch for my next video. I've got a sweet treat coming up.